Hello everyone, this is Jagrati Soni from Mata Jijabai Government PG Girls College, Moti Tabela, Indore, and today I am going to give a presentation on characters in the shroud and themes in the story, and this presentation is guided by Professor Dr. Anita Khare ma'am. So now let's begin it. First of all, we will study some points about Munshi Premchand. His real name was Dhanpat Rai Srivastav. He was born on 31st July 1880 in Lamhi, Banaras State, British India. And he died on 8th October 1936 at the age of 56 in Banaras State at the time of British India. And his pen name was Premchand and Nawab Rai. By occupation, he was a novelist and short story writer. Languages known by him were Hindi and Urdu. His nationality was Indian and his notable works were Karma Bhumi, Shatranj Ki Khiladi, Gaban, Mansarovar, Eidgah, Budi Kaki and many others also. See, here are two quotes by Premchand. First one is, to be successful in life, what you need is education, not literacy and degrees. And next is, a person whose actions go against his principles is hardly an idealist. Next slide is about notable works by Premchand. So here are some major notable works by Premchand. First is Godan, then Nirmala, Lanchan, Ruthi Rani and Prema, and next is Mamta, Kafan, and next is The Second Wife and Pratigya. So these are the famous works by Premchand. And now we will study Premchand's place in the society. Munshi Premchand was a pioneer of Hindi and Urdu social fiction. He was one of the first authors to write about caste hierarchies and the plights of women and laborers prevalent in the society of late 1880s. The issues that echoed in his short stories and novels were even banned or burnt for being highly sensitive. What Shakespeare is in English literature, Munshi Premchand is to Hindi. So see, we can see that his place in the society is very high place. Next is characters in the shroud. See, there are basically 4 characters in the shroud: Ghisu, Madhav, Budhia and Sahib. Now we will study the characters of Ghisu and Madhav. Ghisu. Ghisu is Madhav's father and is arguably a bad influence on his son. Both are known around the village for being lazy and unmotivated. Ghisu had 9 children in all and his wife died long ago. Madhav. Madhav is Ghisu's son. Like his father, he is poor and prefers not to work. He married his wife Budhya a year ago. With his father, he begs for money after his wife dies. Next slide is about characters of Budhya and Sahib. Budhya is Madhav's wife. After marrying him a year ago, she fed Madhav and Ghisu and they only grew lazier. She worked grinding grain in the village. Budhya dies in childbirth, as does the unborn child. After her death, the man begged for money for her funeral rites. Means they are so helpless kind of people that they can't create have the funeral of Budhya. Next is Sahib's character. Sahib is the village landlord. He distasts Ghisu and Madhav and has even beaten them with his own hands for theft and for not showing up to work. After Budhya's death, the father and the son beg Sahib for money for the funeral rites. Sahib would like to send them away, but he coldly gives them 2 rupees. Next slide is about characters of Ghisu's and Ghisu's characters, means characteristics of Ghisu's character. There are basically the Ghisu's character is the major and main character of the this short story, and we can see in this picture also there is the son Madhav and the father Ghisu, and these are all the 7 means major and most asked in the exams. These characteristics are of Ghisu. So we will study one by one. First and second characteristic is old man and lazy. So we will study how these characteristics implement in his character. Old man. Ghisu is portrayal of an old man in his 60s in Munshi Premchand's Kafan. His frail fame culminates into a famished face which are suggestive of his condition and of many of his counterparts in the village. Next is lazy. Ghisu might look like a poor farmer suffering in the hands of destiny, but it's more because of his own laziness and slacking attitude that he is left to rot. Being an old slacker, he is too optimistic on his survival as he finds not just on the food stolen or gives out of compassion, but the human weakness of compassion. Next is liar but loves his son. Liar. Ghisu is not ashamed of lying even if it's about the last rites of his daughter-in-law. At the one side of the story, he is depicted as a mean old man, but well towards the end he picks up grey shades in his character. Next is loves his son. How he loves his son is demonstrated here. He loves his son and has raised him almost as his own prototype, but doesn't feel any special affection for his daughter-in-law, means Budhya. Downgrounding the status of women as just a creature taking care of the household. Next is inhuman behaviors and unfortunate. Inhuman behavior. He is unfurled in all situations, just working in his like a leech for his own survival. Even after he knew the daughter-in-law died of their negligence, he consoled his son Madhav by saying that she got a promised place in the heavens because she died for their good. He is shown at the manipulative best in such pieces. He was not too happy for his unborn grandson because he didn't want to see another one suffering for food with them, and here he shows certain grayish patch. Next is unfortunate. Ghisu tells in this story that he was blessed with 9 boys, but here only Madhav is with him. It suggests that he has suffered loss in his life, have seen his family dying, and now being aware of the ultimate truth, he just rots behind helpless and has developed a thick skin outside, which is impermeable to the sun or the rain from this world. Next is thief and black and white, both the shades. Thief. Although the society saw Ghisu as a stealing, lying slacker, but he depicts tones of grey to me. There have been depictions of Ghisu stealing potatoes and beans from villagers to eat, but never did he steal any valuables, means like gold or silver. He stole for his bare survival. Black and white, both the shades. In the society where the condition of the farmers is as deplorable as that of these slacking loafers, Ghisu was intelligent enough not to toil in the soil to feel the zamindar's treasury. Towards the end of the story, there is certain guilt to Ghisu's characters when he portrays for Bakunt, means heaven, for his daughter-in-law, and here we see a good-hearted Ghisu with shades of both black and white. Next slide is about themes or significance of the shroud. See, there are basically 6 themes or significance of the shroud. We will study one by one. Poverty and class. The shroud depicts a poor family in a low caste in India in 1930s. On the one hand, the author depicts the protagonists Ghisu and Madhav as awful, lazy and to blame for their predicament. There is no shortage of work in the village, yet the father and the son simply do not want to work. On the other hand, the narrator expresses some sympathy for their situation, attributing it to the highly unequal and unjust class system in which they live. The narrator remarks that Ghisu and Madhav's attitude is no surprise given that they live in a society where poor presents who do back-breaking labor are in no better shape than they are. Finally, the shroud offers a reflection on poverty as a cycle and a trap. Gisu's son Madhav has taken his father's attitude to an even greater extreme. After their feast at the wine house, the man will presumably awaken to the same miserable situation. The only thing that has changed is that now Madhav, just like his father, will have the ceremony of the feast he will likely never be able to experience again. Next is hunger. The story begins with a description of a father and son who are so indolent that if they have nothing to fill their stomachs with, they generally do not trouble themselves greatly, provided that they can avoid having to work. After going hungry for 3 or 4 days, Ghisu would go out to collect firewoods and Madhav would sell it at the market. As long as the money earned lasted, they would never do a hand's turn. If there was some wheat in the house, neither of them would lift a finger, as if they had sworn off working. Next is selfishness. Overall, the narrator depicts Ghisu and Madhav as selfish. They do just enough work to get by. They take advantage of Budhya's hard labor and then even leave her to die alone in childbirth. They do not try to comfort or help her. The characters' self-serving attitudes reach a climax in the story's final scene. They beg for money for Budhya's funeral, but in the end choose to spend the money to satisfy their own desires by buying food and alcohol at the wine house. Next is gender. In the short story, Premchand explores gender goals through the main character's treatment of Budhya. After Madhav and Budhya marry, Budhya works very hard, grinding grain and cutting grass in the village. In this way, she is able to feed Madhav and Ghisu. Traditional gender goals dictate that she must not feed the man. Yet, she also takes on the responsibility of providing for the household financially. In response, Ghisu and Madhav only grow lazier. Budhya's sufferings reaches a high point as she struggles to give birth. The men leave her alone to mourn with pain and die. So these are gender goals shown. Next is religious hypocrisy. The shroud explores the theme of the hypocrisy in the religion. In Ghisu's and Madhav's society, the upper classes are often associated with priesthood and religious purity. In this society, people are willing to give great sums of money to the upper caste for religious rituals and festivals. Yet Ghisu and Madhav portray the wealthy as hypocrites since they exploit poor people and then act as if they can repent for this cruel behavior through religious rituals. Next is tradition. The tradition theme is also very important in this short story. Old village tradition is shown in this story. The shroud, traditional things in this and scenario is seen in this story, the shroud. Next is conclusion part. The subalterns in Premchand's story, the shroud is not only resist of forces of exploitation but subverts dominant social mores and traditions to gain an average over the master class, forcing them to shell out money which they would not have otherwise in ordinary circumstances. This glory of victory is attenuated by the realization that the subalterns in turn is also an exploiter of the women in the family, who in life and death is used for sustaining self-interest and males of the family. So thank you for now and bye to all.